Hello and welcome to episode 84 of the 214 Sports Show. Episode 84, the Jay Novacek episode. We welcome you here. I'm your host, TJ Krilowicz. I'm joined alongside Joseph Duffey. Joe, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. What a weekend of sports. Glad to see the NFL is back. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, didn't go their way. Sadly, we've seen that kind of game plenty of times in our lives, but it is what it is. But the Rangers, the mighty Rangers, the little rascals that are trying to call them right now, are getting on a heater, and I can't wait to dive into that. Glad to be
Yeah, and I don't
back.
know if the Little Rascals is going to be is
I
going to be a term that I might stick with, but
Yeah, I hate that. I'm
we're
just
calling
saying
them
that
the
for the
Little
beginning of the episode.
Rascals.
Hate that, man.
Yeah, we are here to talk everything Dallas sports every Thursday at 11 a.m. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll be talking about the Cowboys Eagles loss from last week, exactly a week ago from now, or from this episode dropping, and then also preview the weekend matchup against the New York Giants, and then also talk about the Rangers' resurgence in September and their upcoming schedule. And let's see if they can somehow fit themselves into the playoffs, which is something that felt unimaginable a couple of weeks ago. So pretty impressive stuff over there. We're gonna stick with Arlington the entire day. We are what's Arlington's area code again? I can't
I
even
don't
remember. It's like
know.
713. I don't want to be wrong, but I think it's 713. We are the 713 Sports Show today. So, starting off with on today's date, September 11th, 2023, 2 years ago, the Rangers take the first game of the series against the Blue Jays in Toronto. I know you were just recently in Toronto for a game. They won 10 to 4. Jonah Heim hit a grand slam. It was his third career grand slam. Evan Carter launched his first major league home run in this game, and the Rangers, who struggled mightily kind of going into this series, moved the 79 and 64 and then ended up sweeping Toronto in the four-game series. Huge implications for the wild card. If the Blue Jays were 80 and 64 after this game. They're still a half game above us, and we moved pretty steadily ahead of them after this series. But I don't know. Do you remember that game?
I remember all of this. Absolutely stunning that they swept them in the four-game series. I was not expecting to get, if you remember that August month, absolutely awful leading into the postseason. But yeah, this series was awesome. I remember the Heim Grand Slam. Of course, Evan Carter would start to make his name as Adolis Garcia got hurt. He had the little limp in right field, and that got Evan Carter to be called up. But it's crazy that this was 2 years ago. Cannot believe that. So. This is an awesome series. I wish I could have seen this as I was in Toronto a few weeks ago, but fortunately I had to see a
Stuck with
blown
the bad
lead
end, man.
and then a blowout with a position player pitching. I think it was Rowdy Tellez I had to see pitch on the mound in Toronto. So what a series this was, and we know how it all ended.
I don't know why you'd be complaining. I think Rowdy Tellez on the mound would be hilariously awesome to see in person, but I get it. Yeah, I would rather see this game than the games that you saw. But moving to the Dallas Cowboys, our first little segment of the day with Dallas sports. Of course, we just talked about it in our intro. The Cowboys lost last week to the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champs. But they put up a challenge. They struck first. They got that first touchdown. Javonte Williams, the newcomer running back. The Eagles were able to respond. The Cowboys weren't able to stop them on defense, especially with the run game, both from Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, especially in the first half. The rain delay happens. The offense stalls on both ends, and the Cowboys got the bad end of the stick um, uh, by the end of the game. A lot of misfortune that happened with the Cowboys, a lot of
Yeah.
drops, a lot of just unfortunate stuff that I guess you can kind of grow accustomed to being a Cowboys fan. You're like, hey, they found a new way to lose this week. What a surprise. I mean, you'd think they found every way to lose, but they find another way. But yeah, I mean, it was still an impressive game, and the general reaction from the crowd or from the fan base of the Cowboys is that we look good. And so I don't know. I mean, what players, if you can answer this, what players impressed you in the loss to the Eagles? What makes you excited for the future or this season?
Yeah, I mean, just this is so tricky because this game was right. there for them, right there.
Absolutely.
Like there's like multiple times I just think about you're like if you complete this pass, if you end up hanging on, if you don't fumble as we're heading towards the red zone like Miles Sanders did after having a big run, just right there beating the champs on kickoff night in their home. To me, I have to say Javonte Williams. I think it's pretty clear. I did not expect them to start off that hot offensively, especially in the run game. Now, the run game as a whole was not, insane, I would say. They still had 119 total yards on the
Mhm.
ground, but it wasn't like that dynamic, but it still looked pretty solid against the front seven of the Eagles. Now, you can say Jalen Carter being gone after that first play of the game might have been the reason for that too, but, credit where it's due. They found a way, in spite of him being gone, to keep going because that D line of the Eagles is pretty stout even without Carter. So I would say Javonte Williams getting 2 touchdowns because of the red zone issues that this team has had, the past 2 years. That O line was imposing their will in the red zone against a really stout D line for the Eagles, and that was really surprising to me. This O line has gotten younger with the loss of Zach Martin, and it sucks that he's retired, but I don't even blame him for the way they've just wasted his career. Hall of Fame lineman in him. But yeah, this line has gotten very young, and they really were pushing, getting a good push against the line of the Eagles with Javonte Williams punching in 2 tutties in that game. So I was really impressed. It gives me hope for the run game when you need a touchdown down low. But as far as defense, I mean, they played much better than I expected as well. If I'm saying someone in particular, I don't know if there's anybody that comes off my mind right now. Maybe Ezaraku. I don't know. He didn't play that amazing. I shouldn't say that. A little iffy. But
Yeah,
as far as the
the
front
edge game
seven,
definitely needs some work.
yeah, it was okay. I don't know if the defense has a player that makes me say like this guy was phenomenal. Like I didn't expect him. But offensively, Javonte Williams for sure.
I think Marshawn Nealon had a great game, obviously. I think that that was a big part of kind of stopping them in the second half, especially with the run game. But he's the only guy who got a sack in the entire game for both defenses as well, which is insane. I also really, I didn't mind Kenny Clark at all. I thought Kenny Clark played a decent game,
Oh, he
especially
played
with the
good, yeah.
circumstances, having to come in last second in a very popular, mass media type trade where, you're at the end of you're at the end of this. Sorry, I'm over explaining this. You're at the very end of a super popular trade that, you know, involves a superstar and you come in and play like that, not too bad. Um, I gotta say, yeah, I think Javonte Williams really helped open up the passing game. That helped Dak come in, and Dak just had, in my opinion, an incredible game. So many drop passes on the other end, especially, of course, from CeeDee Lamb having 3 drops, I think actually 4,
Hmm.
um, that were easily catchable, and kind of cost Dak from looking like the superior quarterback between the two. Um, but I mean, it was just prime. The offensive line that you mentioned, not giving up a sack was so huge in the running game, opening up the pass game. I think it just led the prime Dak FU ball, throwing it just straight down the field, launching it. And, unfortunately, didn't work out this game. He had a couple of good plays downfield, and but that game really installed a lot of confidence with me and Dak Prescott. I know it's his seventh or eighth season now with the Cowboys, probably I think 10th actually. Um, and you should be able to have some kind of confidence in him already. But I mean, that game really proved. I mean, that's prime time road game against your bitter rival. Play like that. I mean, you got to be on the boat. You got to be on the bandwagon for him this season. I'm excited for him this season.
Yeah, and I guess Brian Schottenheimer also surprised me from the coaching standpoint. Not scared at all. Actual deception that we're seeing offensively. Not just shifts, but more motioning. I
Yeah.
mean, it was actually deceiving. They're actually keeping the Eagles defense on their heels. Vic Fangio, their DC, on their heels. I mean, Schottenheimer said he was going to do this in its introductory conference, and it's a big difference from Mike McCarthy's offense. Way more shifts, little less motion, but for Schottenheimer, you saw more deception. You saw more like a Sarkisian style motioning for his offense, like, almost going overboard. I saw Mina Kimes talking about last year they ranked 29th league wide in motion at the snap. 42% that they had in that last game would rank fourth. for last year. So a big difference from this
Great
Cowboys
stat.
offensive look that we saw against the Eagles. Makes me hopeful for sure.
You saw that. I mean, again, Dak 21 for 34 on his attempts should be a lot higher, his completion percentage. And all the separation that was allowed. I mean, we talked about this a lot in the podcast. The Cowboys do not create separation. Dak was finding a lot of open players this game. You got to give a little tip of the cap to Brian Schottenheimer and his play calling. Definitely really impressive stuff from him. Moving on to next week, though, now you got the New York Giants, man. What a brutal schedule to start off the season for the Giants, having to go 2 weeks in a row against divisional opponents on the road. Um, they lost the first week to the Commanders. They didn't look too good offensively. This theoretically could be a really good bounce back game for the Dallas defense. Not saying they played terrible, obviously. 24 points to Philadelphia isn't bad. The rushing game definitely needs a lot more. Um, definitely needs a lot more improvement. So, what do you see the defense doing against New York and on Saturday or Sunday?
Well, for one, actually generating turnovers. And look, we know that the Eagles are good at not turning the ball over, especially Jalen Hurts. He did a really good job of holding on to the rock, escaping the pocket, and when he's getting pressured for a sack, he looked really good and comfortable in the pocket in Jalen Hurts. So I think that this team against Russell Wilson, who didn't look that good, and people were kind of calling for his job to be replaced by Jackson Dart, and it looks like a few Giants fans are not too happy that he might be lining up for week 2, more than likely. I think that this defense will actually get turnovers, and I think they'll actually generate more sacks as well. Russell Wilson is not as great escaping the pocket, of course, as Jalen Hurts. He's lost a little bit of his mobility now that he's like 35 or 36 years old. So I think we'll see more defensive pressures, hopefully more blitzing by our new DC. But, because he was kind of laying off against the Eagles, and I can't blame him, to be honest. That's a great
Yeah,
offense.
you're scared.
But yeah, I think we'll see more pressure for sure by the front seven and actually a turnover because we still did not see one last game. The Cowboys were the only to have to turn the ball over, and that was Miles Sanders going into the red zone. So very tragic.
Yeah, yeah, very, very, very tragic. The red zone stuff. It's just this is the thing with the Cowboys. I hate to be the negative Nancy here with the Cowboys. I am excited for this season. I think that they'll be competitive, but to think that they're a different team from years past, obviously, hey, the offense looks a lot better than years past. Brian Schottenheimer has included a plan that looks better, more promising than Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett in the years before. But this is a game that they should have won, and they lost by themselves. You pointed out Miles Sanders' fumble. He should have been able to house it at the start of the drive. He let a linebacker come back on him,
Yep.
but
Yep.
you let Miles Sanders fumble the ball. Well, you don't let him, but he does. And then you also have the drop passes and the final drive, final offensive drive, stuff like that. You just get so frustrated with, and that's something that's so common with the Cowboys from years past in the playoffs, all these games. They lose by beating themselves. And so, I always think of the Russell Westbrook quote where he goes crazy when somebody asks him if the Thunder lost the game or if the Jazz won the game. That's a true, I mean, it's honestly not a bad question. It's not a bad question at all. Like you're playing down to
What?
your opponent or you're beating yourself. That's what
Yeah.
happens with the Cowboys a lot. And I'm not saying that they played down to their opponent, the Philadelphia, obviously. They're a better team, but they lost the game to themselves. They could have minimized penalty or minimized mistakes, and they would have won that game. The Giants, going to the Giants with the defense, you hit the nail on the. I think that everything that you said was right. I was going to talk about forcing those turnovers and putting more pressure on Russell Wilson. You don't have to, you know, stay back on him, have a spy really. He's an old guy. He's definitely not as mobile as he used to be. So, throw that pressure at him. Try to get a turnover, at least one. That's what you'd love to see. And that's something big correlation between turnovers and winning the game. You get turnovers on defense, you're most likely going to win the game. Who got the turnover in Thursday night? It was the Eagles.
No.
They ended up winning the game. So, I mean, just a just an interesting game. I'm excited to see them play against a
Right
inferior
there.
opponent.
Right there.
somebody that somebody that they should beat, somebody that they do usually beat, the New York Giants, especially at home. So,
And at the same
hopefully they
time,
can.
like it's still not a free victory. Like I want to say it's a gimme game, but for some reason, like just being a Cowboys fans, we know that like it's never guaranteed. Anything
Right.
can happen. That defense for the Giants is a little salty, and again, they were on the road against Washington. They didn't give up as many points as I thought they would, but they're a solid defense, especially in their D line.
Yeah.
I can see this team losing for sure. I don't think they will, but I got to tip my cap to Schottenheimer. This team only had 4 penalties last Thursday. They won the penalty battle by 5. The Eagles had 9, one of them being
Yep.
Jalen Carter getting thrown out by spitting on Dak.
Some
Uh,
controversial calls with,
yeah,
Nolan Smith and stuff, but yeah.
yeah, and then of course third down they were really good as well. 7 of 11 on third down. I'll take that any day. Just really disappointing they couldn't get this job done because they were right there. I don't know how this team lost this game, but it's a good sign, I think, for the future. They can hang with the Eagles. This is 3 straight losses, I think, to Philadelphia as it stands 'cause they got swept last year. But yeah, this is pretty disappointing. Hopefully they can bounce back next week.
Yeah, and another good thing about losing to your division rival in week one is that you'll always play them again later in the season. So you can
Yeah.
able to get that revenge on them later in the year. I forget what week it is, but I know it's much later into the season. I don't It's not Thanksgiving, obviously, but
hmm
somewhere around Thanksgiving is when the Cowboys will play the Eagles in Jerry's world. And you said you thought the Cowboys were going to beat New York. Well, let's get into the over-under, all right? We got the spread, first of all. Dallas Cowboys are favored to win by 5.5 points. Do you think that they win by 6 points, or do you think that the Giants cover the spread?
I think Dallas can win by at least a touchdown. So I got them winning by at least 6 points. I got that to be covered by Dallas.
Yeah, I think their historical dominance with this team. I don't think Dak Prescott has lost to the Giants at home since
His
this
first
first
game.
year. His first game, literally his
Oh,
first game.
hilarious.
Um, yeah, and Cowboys got the rest advantage as well. I don't know how huge that will end up being, but I think the Cowboys cover the spread. Um, and you know what? Start the season 2-0 by covering the spread. 1-1 wins and losses, but 2-0 covering the spread. Hey, not bad. Moving on, Dak Prescott yards, 245 and a half yards. Do you think he goes over or under this game?
I think over. I think over. I think my guy Dak's a flamethrower these days. Hopefully his receivers actually help him out this time around. I gotta say also, like, I feel like a lot of other teams, like their guys hang on to everything, especially defenders. You saw that Rams Texans game, some of the picks that the Rams were getting, man. Like, why can't our guys just hang on like that? Why can't any of our receivers hang on? Even CeeDee Lamb was dropping balls. Anyways, I got Dak going over. I think he'll get it rather easily.
Yeah, yeah. I'm leaning over, but I can also see it being well under. Just depends on the flow of the game. I think that this is a game where you open up attacking, with the pass, but if they get ahead, I could see them easily starting to slow down the offense and getting more um, quick gains with the rush. And so I'm gonna lean over. I'm gonna say he gets to 250. Next one, we got CeeDee Lamb, 82 and a half yards. What do you got?
I'm once again gonna go over with this. I think CD's really motivated after last week. Quite possibly the quietest 110 yards you'll ever see. 7 catches, 110
Absolutely.
yards, and still felt like he had stuff on the table because he did leave stuff on the table. He quite literally dropped 3 or 4 balls, like you were talking about. If you had him in fantasy, like I did in my main league, it was a little bit of a sour taste you had in your mouth as you were going to bed. But yeah, the guy could have had at least 140 yards, probably 130 for sure, without those drops. So I think he'll get over against the Giants. He usually plays well against New York. I think he'll be over by far.
That's why I'm going to go over for CeeDee Lamb as well for 82 and a half yards. He had over 100 yards in both of his games against New York last year. Definitely a good bet. 110 yards, like you said, against Philadelphia. Definitely going over for CeeDee Lamb. Um, this one's again interesting one. Jake Ferguson is at 38 and a half receiving yards. What do you think, over or under?
I'm gonna go under on this, not because I don't think Ferguson can't have a good game, but I think he'll be again, more in the short yardage game. You see Jake Ferguson get involved either on those seam throws that he dropped, of course, against with Dak again the kickoff game, but he's usually in the flats as like a safety blanket. If not, he's going to him on third down to move
Mhm.
the chains ever so slightly. I don't think he'll be able to get a lot of yards in this game. And again, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Dak has CD and George Pickens at his disposal.
Yep.
So if he gets under 38 yards, that's not a terrible thing for the offense. Nonetheless, I think he'll go under, possibly have 20 something to a low 30 number.
And I think Jake Ferguson, I think he'll go. I'm leaning over here. I think the Giants have a weak pass defense, and I think that we're going to really exploit it. So I'll go over on this. The next one is Brian Anger punts. He is sitting at 3 punts. Do you think he has three or less punts in this game, or more than 3 punts?
I'll go under on this. Let's get risky. I'll go under.
Okay.
I think that this team, when they get in Giants territory, they got something to prove in their first home game of the year. We're going to see them going fourth down a lot, I think, and to see what they can do against this Giants defense. Because of that, I think Anger will be in the team. Will be on the field much less, possibly 2 punts in the game. Much more Brandon Aubrey action than we saw in Week 1. Also a great game he had, but I think we can see more Aubrey and more fourth down possible conversions for the Cowboys offense. Less Anger.
That basically sums me up. I think he goes about 3 punts. Looked it up as well last year, the 2 games against New York. I know these are not really too much of things to go off of. Both teams are different. But he had 3 punts or less in both games against New York last year. I'm gonna go with that. The Cowboys stay aggressive. I'll go less. I'll go 3 punts. And then
All right.
lastly, what's your score prediction?
I think Cowboys win 31 to 20.
31 to 20. I think that's respect. I'll go 27-17. 27-17 sounds about right. Maybe 28. Who knows? No, 27. 27. 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. All right. Both things, I
Hmm.
mean, got to stay with covering the spread as well. All right. Moving on to the Texas Rangers, which, as the time we are recording this, we are currently holding our broomsticks, but don't know if it is a confirmed sweep right now. I'm gonna go ahead right there. It is the top of the seventh. The Rangers are leading 5-3. So I'm gonna stay at mark that. Hopefully nothing bad happens afterwards. Um, but I mean, my goodness, you got a game and a half out of the wild card spot. That's been there for a while now. The Mariners are starting to pick it up. And then you have the Houston Astros who have been playing sub 500 ball this month. You just beat them in a series. Now you're only I believe actually 3 games, 2.5 games, right?
2.5 games, yeah, out of
Behind
the AL
Houston
West lead.
for
Yeah,
the division.
unreal.
And all of this without Corey Seager, Marcus Simeon, Adolis Garcia for the most part, Evan Carter, Nathan Eovaldi, Tyler Mull, who's about to come back. But all of these players have been hurt for the majority, if not all, of this September stretch where the Rangers have miraculously came back in the postseason run. And I want to talk about the young players who have been doing it. I mean, Cody Freeman. We've seen Alejandro Osuna step up. We've seen what are some other names?
Of
I'll just
course,
go ahead to my
Michael.
main one.
Yeah,
Michael Hellman, who you could say has single-handedly won the Rangers this series against Milwaukee. I mean, it's
I
insane.
mean, what are we seeing right now? We are witnessing an all MLB player now. I'll take it back. I'll take it back. But yeah, this is unbelievable what we're seeing from Michael Hellman, the Nebraska native, the A&M Aggie. I mean, Pat Murphy, Brewers manager, was just talking about, man, we might have to intentionally walk this guy. I mean, you saw him hit that grand slam in game one against the Brew Crew. Then you saw him hit a two-run shot, to help tie the game. And then also rob a potential two-run shot that had Jack Leiter raising his arms on the mound. I mean, what are we watching right now? I can't even just begin to describe this season as we've seen it. Like the guys that we have paid boatloads of money, would they be doing this right now? I mean, I don't know.
I
These
don't
guys are
know.
hungry. They are hungry to win right now. They want to stay in the MLB. Cody Freeman and Michael Hellman. What we're seeing from this offense right now is just what we've been just praying to watch. I heard Dave Raymond just say it a few minutes ago. This team is like unconscionable if they just get 4 runs at home. As it stands coming into this game on a Wednesday afternoon, they're 46 and 28 at home. But when they score four
Yep.
runs at home, they're like they almost are unbeatable. They only have 4 losses when they score 4 runs at home. So this offense is on a heater right now. I don't know how much you attribute that to Brett Boone, who they used to replace the former hitting coach here in Donnie Ecker. But yeah, this team is just unreal right now. Pitching is staying afloat, which I had the biggest question of for the second half of the season. Pitching is staying afloat. I wish they won that D-back series, but as it stands right now, I mean, the starting pitching still looks very solid. The late action, the bullpen still looks pretty solid. If this offense just maintains, I mean, you can see this team for sure in the postseason somehow.
Yeah, and I got a question for you right now. Do you think that it's time to permanently move, even with, with how little the season has left, how much you are pushing to get into the playoffs? Do you think you would put Jake Latz into the rotation full time right now? You think he
I think
deserves it?
For sure. I mean, he's been balling out. A valuable lefty starter for this pitching staff. When you see Tyler Mahle come back, it's been a long time. Who knows if he looks the way that we saw him in the first month or so, when he was looking very consistent, arguably our best starter in that first month and a half of action. He was looking amazing. So I think Lance has earned it. You could for sure see him in the rotation as it starts right now, as he looks right now, because he's just been so dominant. And has been a big middle relief guy across the past year and a half, but has taken a bigger role as you've just described as a starting pitcher. I think he deserves it. I'd be for it. No harm in having more lefties. I don't know what that means for Patrick Corbin in the future. I can see Corbin in the bullpen for sure. But as far as Latch goes, he's a valuable arm to me right now. He has gone only better as the season has progressed.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he definitely deserves it over Patrick Corbin. I mean, no disrespect to Patrick Corbin. He has been a delightful part of our rotation, has definitely stepped up, and we appreciate his work. But I think Jake Latz definitely deserves that spot in the rotation over him at this point. I mean, he's been bussing. He's been bussing recently. That shutout against Milwaukee is incredible. I
Oh,
believe it was Milwaukee, right? Not Houston. Yeah, it was Milwaukee. Um, but I mean, this is all wishful thinking. ESPN right now, very interesting. They have Seattle at the highest point in our division to win, or to make the playoffs. ESPN
mm,
has the Mariners at 83% to make the playoffs, the Astros at 80%, the Rangers at 25.
I mean,
So
crazy.
I am, I am, it's pretty interesting. Do you think that it's easier for the Rangers, who sit at 2.5 games behind the division and 1.5 games behind the wild card, but don't have the tiebreaker against the Mariners, potentially can still lose the tiebreaker with Houston, but might have the tiebreaker if they can beat them in the series, beat them just once in Houston and Globe Life South. Um, so what do you think is easier for the Rangers? Do you think it's easier to secure the division, or do you think it would be easier to get a wild card spot?
These Mariners, dude. When we need them to lose, when we need them to lose, St. Louis, you have one job. You're leading every single time in this series, and you find a way to blow it when you get in the middle of the game. I just can't believe it, honestly. Honestly, I could say the division might be easier. And again, it's because of the tiebreaker that the Mariners have against the Rangers. They're 10-3 over Texas this season.
They
Just
always
dominant
dominate us.
display. Yeah, dominant display this season. The pitching has absolutely just stalled the offense for the Rangers. And you have that big series coming up for Texas. When you have the Mariners who have that advantage against this Rangers team, I think the division is right there for the opening. That's much easier for the Rangers than getting the third wild card. And it may sound crazy like that because the division sounds way bigger than a wild card race. But as far as Houston looking, how they look against Texas and how they've once again dropped another series to the Rangers, like we just saw a few days ago, I think this Rangers team can make some significant ground in that final series in Houston, to potentially take the lead for the AL West, depending on how Seattle plays as well.
I wish I could disagree with you at any point of this fucking podcast, but I can't, man. It's just too hard. I have to say that I think it's way easier to get the division at this point, which is hilarious. I mean, the last time the Rangers have won the division, it's 2016. It's been almost 10 years. So it feels like out of hand, it feels like it's out of grasp. But I mean, the Mariners right now, how they've been playing in September, which has also been sub 500 ball, has been mainly because of their road performances. Their road performance has been terrible. When they are at home, they've been playing a lot better. And right now, they're sitting at 11 games left at home and only 6 games left on the road. I think the Mariners keep the solid play up. And I don't know if that's going to mean that the Rangers are going to, theoretically, for them to make the playoffs, they have to pass both Seattle and Houston. It is not just passing Seattle because you got to pass Houston because wait, now I'm trying to think. No, no, no,
Because
no,
what
no.
if Houston, like, yeah, like what if Houston got third?
Houston would just
I
have to
personally can't see
collapse.
that.
You would have to
Yeah,
sweep Houston,
yeah.
basically.
I couldn't see it happening. Like Astros flat out missing the playoffs. That's why I say that,
But that's the only scenario for the Rangers to make the playoffs is the
yeah.
Astros missing the playoffs almost. Unless
I mean,
unless they can
unless Seattle
somehow the
just, yeah.
Mariners collapse. Like I mean they usually do. It's not out of reason to think they will, but I think it's just the road games, man. And I want to say this real quick. This could be a really rough week for the Rangers coming up.
Yeah.
They are playing 6 straight games on the road against teams fighting for the playoffs. The Mets are in the same position almost as us. The Astros are trying to keep their division lead. These are going to be really high emotional, high intensity games. And these are young guys out there. And I'm looking at road records this season, and I don't know if this is a usual year or not, but I'm looking at the road records. The best road record in the AL this year is Detroit, and they are 37 and 33 on the road. They are only 4 games above 500 on the road, and that's the best record in the AL. So it is completely unreasonable to think that the Rangers, I know they've caught fire, but to think that they are going to win both series is completely unreasonable. They're 12 games below 500 on the road, and they are about to reach. I mean, this is a make or break part of the season once again. Because if you go out of that series, if you go out of that road series 2-4, 1-5, it's not looking too good with the remaining 9 games. And then you also have Cleveland at the end of the season on the road. But I want it to be so clear that we could have been done talking about the Rangers a couple weeks ago on this podcast. It
Yeah,
is a
man.
blessing that we are talking about them right now and talking about them making the playoffs instead of their offseason plans. It is a blessing. This shouldn't be happening right now. And it's all because of these people who weren't on the roster at the beginning of the season. A lot of them. Michael Hellman, uh, you know,
Cody
Jake
Freeman,
Berger's
yeah.
one of them who has been very, very good resurgence from Jake Berger at the late part of the season. But yeah, Asuna, and then Cody Freeman, all these players, they were not expected to be on this team. They have little experience. So if they lose a couple games on this road series, don't blame this series. Don't blame this season not making the playoffs on this team. Don't blame the game where Cody Freeman is batting second in the lineup. Blame the game in April that we lost to Kansas City or whatever, where Corey Seager was batting second in the lineup, where we had Marcus Semien active, where we had El Bombe active, where we had Nathan Eovaldi pitching, and we still found a way to lose. Those are the games. If we miss out on the playoffs by 1 or 2 games, those are the games that fans should look at and blame for the season. Not the people who are making the money, not the people who have stepped up from our minor league, from our waiver wire. Those are the people who cannot be blamed if we miss the playoffs. I'm just going to put that out there.
Perfectly said. And that will be getting clipped. Well said.
Thank you.
That will
Thank you.
be
Thank
clipped.
you. Hey, yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
This
yeah,
is
I mean,
this is clip farming out here.
yeah, that will be getting clipped. Yeah, but just saying, like, you hit the nail right in the head. If they end up collapsing, what a run it's been for these guys, just letting the season extend. Because a month ago, it was looking bleak for this team. We've seen them win, a stretch of 4 to 5 games and then flat out get swept the next series
Yep.
with El Bombi and Seager and Simeon in the lineup. But these guys have found a way to stack win upon win. And who knows? I mean, they've already won the series against the Brewers. I didn't expect that last week. I thought it was a little bit fraudulent after they lost
Exactly.
that series against the D-backs, but they're finding a way to get the job done. And, you can't blame it on AAA guys if the season ends up collapsing. What about those games, like you were saying in April, May, or June? Even the games just, a month ago, 2 months ago in the heat of the summer when you started off the post All-Star break hot and then flat out collapsed right after, got swept by the Royals in Kansas City. So you hit the nail right on the head. You had games all season long where you lost by literally 1 run. Plenty of them. Plenty of games where
A
your
lot.
bullpen flat out sold the game. So don't blame it on these guys if it doesn't end up working out. Completely agree.
Yeah, those 2-1 losses that you had in May where the offense didn't respond and the bullpen blew the game. Those are games that you're those are the games to blame. Not
Hmm.
the game that they'll get, that they'll eventually lose to New York or Houston. Not those games. Do not blame them. And you know what? I'm remaining hopeful and I think that they do pull out a series victory in one of these two series. But just yeah, just don't blame these young guys, man. These young rascals as they're trying to coin them, which
I'm not liking that, not
is
gonna lie.
interesting. Interesting.
Bro, freaking
Old
Michael
term.
Hellman. Michael Hellman is
Old head
29
term,
years old,
nickname.
bro. Michael
Yeah.
Hellman is 29.
He's
He's no
literally 29 years old.
like what are we doing? That guy has been playing baseball, I mean, longer than some of us have been alive that are watching him. He is not some young cat. He's 29. He's older than a lot of guys that we've seen that we've signed for a minute. He's older than Carter by plenty.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And that's going to do it for this episode. We're going to have to watch the rest of the Rangers Brewers game this Wednesday. We really, really appreciate you joining us for this week, and we hope that next week we'll bring another great episode. If you guys want to follow us for more on our social media, for more coverage, we have a lot of good content on TikTok, X/Instagram, and also on or X/Twitter, and also on Instagram. You can follow us there at 214 Sports Show, and then you can also, of course, like, subscribe, share, comment as well on our episodes that we post every Thursday at 11 a.m. on YouTube and Spotify. Those will be at the 214 Sports Show. And Joe, do you want to give out your socials?
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me on Instagram at Joseph_Duffy99. Also on Twitter, the same handle at Joseph_Duffy99, or on TikTok at JOE_DUFFEY.
You can follow me on X/Twitter at TJ_Krilowicz, and also on Instagram at TJ.Krilowicz. And once again, this has been episode 84 of the 214 Sports Show, the Jay Novacek episode. We wish to see you for episode 85 and have a good weekend.